I have a number of students that I teach.
Are you taking new students as well? Or
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
that's good.
Yes. And
so again, that information will be on my website, Eleanor's Elite Radio on Facebook.com. And I can get all that information, Joel's information on my page, and you can get in touch with me or directly get in touch with Joel and find out, what the prices are for your children or for your adults.
Yeah.
And adults, I'm sure, want to also learn how to play. I wish I had that. I always wanted to be able to play the piano.
And let me tell you some of my specialties in teaching. My real niche, and I like to stay in my niche in life and do things I'm good at and avoid the things I'm not as good at. It seems as I was teaching over the years, I do really well with beginner intermediate students, people that know how to play their instrument already and are looking to expand their musical awareness, their musical enjoyment, and getting to the new genre of jazz. So I teach all instruments, not just trombone. And I seem to help a lot of retired people and some teenagers.
Wonderful.
So that's my niche on that beginning intermediate or intermediate advanced.
Do you only teach one instrument, trombone?
No. I don't teach people how to play their instruments from scratch. The type of students that I like to take on is someone who has a decent facility of their instrument, and then I teach them how to connect with their instrument.
Well, then I could be a student.
Through their soul. So yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify that. And I teach all instruments. The only two that are impractical for me would be piano and drums and guitar. I teach all the wind instruments.
Oh, how wonderful!
And I used to play. I actually used to play the drums, and I used to play the piano in school.
Really?
Yeah, just for a brief moment though. It was very brief.
Oh, you should have kept that up, Michael.
I tried.
It just wasn't happening?
It just wasn't happening.
When I was a young girl, my mom paid for my brother and I to go for guitar lessons.
Okay,
and I remember it was just folk guitar. It was a little folk, guitar. And
tell the story.
The teacher said to my mom, I just don't think she's ready to learn, how to play, because I would sit there and I would ignore him and just sing, like just play and sing to myself. And instead of encouraging that, we told my mom, I don't think it's going to work out for her.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's
I would have loved to hear that.
Yeah,
she
has
her own. She has
I was
her
just
own
having
spirit
such a
and her
good
own soul.
time
Yeah.
You
singing
obviously
and
had the wrong
strumming.
teacher.
But it is what it is. I still just want a baby grand piano, no furniture in my house, just a baby grand with that's what I want. That's my dream. My goal is to get that and learn how to play.
And you will.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
You will. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you. We were talking briefly before I'm sorry with the before we came on air about people that perhaps might be a little jealous of you. I'm sure you've run into people. I guess the only way to put it out there is that they might be jealous. They're jealous of you.
Jealousy.
It all depends on, I guess, how we were talking earlier about how you handle it. You have to basically move forward and not look back. And a friend of mine today, Robert Greene, told me a wonderful expression. A lion never looks back to a barking dog. And, I love that expression because if you are a strong person and successful and kind in your heart, and you have kindness, and I do. I'm a very kind person. So you have to learn that in this industry, you are going to meet people that might be jealous or might not wish you well. And you have to learn how to deal with that and kind of move on. Mm-hmm. So with that said, I just wanted to get that out there. I'm sure you, though, can blow anybody out of the water anyhow, musically.
Well, that's not true. There's a lot of great talent in this area. And like I said before, I'm not naturally gifted. So I don't blow a lot of people out of the water who are good. But what I do is I express my soul with abandon. And my soul is, I believe, it's a bright light. So in that sense, I could rise above the group and still be me. But if you want to analyze it through a technical viewpoint, and some musicians may not think that I'm blowing them out of the water, but a lot of times many audience members say, hey, man, I just want to hear you play. You're the best. So it depends on how you look at things. But you know what? You're such a true person in your heart. You're also very humble. I feel that Don, too. Don Most is also very humble in his heart. He's not a diva-like show-off. I want to be a show-off. I do. I'm going to tell you right out there. I love showing off. I love the long blonde hair at the age of 50. It is what it is. The long nails. I love to be dressed up. So I love to show off. I do. I'm sorry. But in my heart, though, I'm still good. So I think that says a lot for him and
his character. You're just a kind person in your heart, and that just reflects, I think, in your music as well.
Yes, yes. I also study, like, I shouldn't say study, but one of my hobbies is thinking about things since I was a kid, and now I'm getting into quantum physics and how music vibrates your cells. And the reason I mention it now during this conversation is my true appeal to playing jazz at a place like Tracy's and creating a scene is to get like that runner's high. To me, it's like a musician's high.
Right.
And it's almost like an electric circuit between the musicians and the audience. So if you get the same band playing in an empty room and there's no one there, it won't have the same feel, the same energy as an audience. So I think of it almost like batteries. And even when certain people walk in, it will energize the room in a different way, in an energetic way than other people.
Right.
Like, for instance, when I see you two guys come, I'm going to play just a little bit better because you're there. And it's because you're charging me up.
Right. I do believe in that as well. I do believe in energy, good energy. Yes. And I also believe in negative energy. I'm Italian.
True.
So that's
true.
There is negative energy out there.
Good point. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's true. And some people put it on Vieira, buy and sell. But that's okay. That's okay. Because you got to rise above that, baby. That's what happens when you're cream, honey.
Absolutely.
And not skim milk.
Right. You just kind of let it go.
Exactly.
So you're telling me I'm with the cream of the crop?
You are, baby. The cream. The best.
That's what I'm talking about.
Organic cream.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a couple of, have you written any of your own music pieces? I'm sure you have.
Well, no. I wrote a couple of duets for fun. But it's really interesting you asked that because, like I say, I'm not that gifted. I never studied music theory. However, I studied with a gentleman named Lenny Tristano, and he taught me to embrace music through spirit and energy. And I do this thing where I try to teach musicians and expose them to what I call spontaneous composition. So, for instance, rather than do it on paper and in harmonies, I encourage people to spontaneously create a line that would sound maybe like a big band. So, for example, if we're playing a tune like, let's see, I can get a nice tune. I'm just going to make up a tune that doesn't even have a name. So the bass line would be something like this. Ba-doom, boom, 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 ba-doom, boom, 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 boom. And then the drums would be ba-doom, boom, boom, ba-doom, ba-doom. So then one horn would come and then we'd start a composition. Boom, boom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, boo-ba, boo-ba-doo-bow. Ba-doom, boom, boom, ba-da, boo-ba, zoo-ba-doo-bow. Then the next one might come in after ba-doo, boo-ba, boo-ba-dee-dee-ya, boo-ba-doo-bow. Boo-ba-doo, boo-ba, boo-ba-da, boom, boom. And then you start to get layers, and you compose spontaneously. And it's not an easy concept for people to do.
I can't imagine that would be easy at all.
But sometimes it comes very easy with the right people, and it's really about letting go, listening, and breaking some old habits. Because the problem is a catch-22. To do that, you tend, well, not always. I could tell you a great story, but generally these people I play with are so good and they're so talented, and the way they got that way is through years and years of playing. So they're hard for them to break the mold and go back to stillness and learn something new. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
I bet it is. Now, I want to ask a question. Have you ever taught children, perhaps with specific learning disabilities, that might be more inclined to learn? Like there are children with specific learning disabilities that have that ability to learn music without being able to read notes or anything.
Right.
They just have that natural gift, like autistic children.
Yeah.
They seem to be very musically oriented.
Well, I haven't had the pleasure of being exposed to such a thing, but I could imagine it would be a great experience.
I imagine so, because like you said, music stirs the soul.
It really
does.
It's
an energizer.
Yeah.
You think about just even if you're having like a crappy day, and you put on a good song, or you put on Lover's Prayer. Thank you very much, Jeff. I love that song. I love that song. That is such a dynamic song, and it just envelops me. It really does. I love it.
So, Eleanor, have you ever seen on Facebook, they had this video of a garden hose spewing out water, and then they had a large speaker next to it, and they started playing different notes, and each note caused the water to spiral at different speeds and different shapes.
No.
And that's what happens inside of your body on a cellular level. Each note and each band and each environment actually literally affects the way our bodies react. That's why if you go into a place and the band is not to your taste and very loud, it could make you feel uneasy and make you want to leave.
An anxiety almost.
Yes,
You know,
exactly
it's a little
right.
bit of an anxiety feeling.
So part of my goal when I play jazz with the Jazz Cats is to attract people that never liked jazz, never heard jazz, and have them walk into the room and go, this is cool.
Yeah,
And the way we do that is by
calm.
playing the right volume, giving the room space, giving it, and then the intentions of love, believe it or not,
Exactly.
coming through the music, and people feel it and go, I want to stay.
Right.
Yeah,
It is. It's a
that's
wonderful
beautiful.
thing.
Yeah, it is.
Joel, I was going to ask you, do you have any favorite trombonists other than yourself?
No, of course I do.
To be honest,
Yes, I do. There's not a lot of favorites. One of my favorites that come to mind that I studied with him in terms of I learned all his solos and played with him on record is J.J. Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He was generally considered one of the best musicians who played trombone and brought it from the old Dixieland to a like ba-doo ba boo ba-doo boo ba-da-da-da-da-da-da boo ba-da boo ba-doo bow. So he modernized the sound.
Right.
And I loved his sound. I loved his soul. So he's probably my all-time favorite. And then there's this other guy. He's new, and well, he's been around, but he's a little avant-garde. His name is I forget his name. Anderson, Ryan Anderson, I think. And he plays really esoterically. And some people don't like his playing as much. But it's kind of, he uses a plunger a lot, and it sounds like this, like, and it's a very energetic thing. And I couldn't do it like him. It didn't sound nice, I could tell. But when you heard him do it on record, it just captures me, and I like him.
Very cool. Tell us a little bit about your past. You've got accolades that I don't think I've ever seen. I had to print out 2 pages. You have unbelievable background. You started in New York, I know. You also studied and taught jazz for 40 years. You had performances in Carnegie Hall as the first chair, which is dynamic. Yeah. I remember when my daughter got first chair in her band, and I was so thrilled. And they had to perform
awesome.
and, you know, to see who was going to win first chair. But tell us a little bit more about your background.
Well, I got into music when I was in 5th grade. They had an assembly. They played 2 notes on the piano, and I picked the right one, which was higher. Mm-hmm. So they threw me into band. Then I was really bad in band class. I was bothering everybody, hitting the flute players with my slide. And the teacher threatened to throw me out of the class, and I don't like failure. So I started practicing, got a teacher, and all throughout school. And then I ended up being pretty good, and I competed for the all-city orchestras and band. And I was fortunate enough to have some great high school teachers that had connections. And I got to play with the New York Philharmonic sitting next to them.
Wow, that's big.
As a gifted student and playing the first chair. And then we did other concerts at Philharmonic Hall. I even got to take a solo in Carnegie Hall with the jazz band in a sentimental mood. And I'll just never forget how that felt.
I bet.
Without a microphone, you could hear a pin drop in Carnegie Hall. So I was just one of the regular talented and on the top 10% of the high school kids. And I was lucky to get there.
Wow.
Nice.
I can't believe you were a regular kid. I mean, because not regular kids, even with extensive music careers and backgrounds, can get to perform for Carnegie Hall or have the first chair, and that's very impressive.
Yeah.
But if you want something, you go for it, right?
Yeah.
You keep practicing,
Yeah.
and you keep going forward. So you can do
It's
anything
true.
you want
You're
to
right.
do, right? You can do
You're
anything.
absolutely right.
There was a time I practiced when I was studying with Lenny Tristano, and once again I was acting like a wise guy like I do, and Lenny was blind, and I went in there and I tried to fool him and play a song when I had it memorized, so he knew I was disrespecting him, and he ripped me a new,
Yeah.
and he said, so anyway, he motivated me to practice. It seems I always mess up, and then someone straightens me out, and then I get really good because of it. So I went home that day, and I wrote out an 8-hour practice sessions with 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off. 5 hours into that practice session, I couldn't play anymore. So I shed a tear because I was disappointed. and my chops tightened up my lips, and they were swollen, and it felt like I had a knife digging into them.
Wow.
And so at that moment is when I became a trombonist. And I'll tell you what happened. So I had my 10 minutes off, and I'm crying inside. Actually, one tear did shed.